Welcome everyone to the regular board meeting of the St. Peter's School Board. It is Monday, July 18th, 2022. We are in the governor's room of the St. Peter Community Center. It is about 6:34. I will call this meeting to order. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have an agenda before us. Would anyone make a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. If there are requests to speak on the agenda, please let Sarah know. Based on who's in the room, I don't think that we have received any. So, the consent agenda, it is our practice to approve a consent agenda each month. We do not read through each individual item, but it is in the board packet, and if members wish to pull out an item or ask questions about an item, we can do that.
Ben, can I ask a question, just a procedural question?
Absolutely.
So, when we have these candidates for positions that are included in the consent agenda, I'm assuming that everyone that requires one is received or will be turning in a background check. And then, like, when we are talking about teachers, are all the teachers then at least a tier 3 teacher or above? And if they aren't, are they identified as such?
First part, yes, everyone's received. If they've made it this far, they've had a background check and they've completed their new hire paperwork and all of that. They're not official until they are cleared by the school board.
Right.
They may have already started that position prior to this, because otherwise we'd be waiting a month sometimes. It does not identify what tier license a teacher has. If they are on here, they have been, they have a license from the state. It may be a tier 1 or an out of content area license, but it wouldn't say that on here.
I think that would be nice to know.
It's usually included in the memo, in the hiring memo
Okay.
from the building.
Yeah, that's just all I needed to know, is because basically you have to sign a statement, right, that you can't find a qualified tier 3 or above to hire. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve and adopt the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We move to action items. We have 10 action items tonight. The first is consider approval of a 10-year-long facilities maintenance revenue plan.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi.
I'll just start. Before you is a 10-year LTFM plan, and this is an annual thing that we do every July, or is required to be done by the end of July, I guess. Basically outlines the spending plan and revenue for our long-term facilities maintenance. This program started probably half a dozen years or better ago now. It's a very good thing that got passed. It gives us equal footing with some of the larger school districts, and gives us a funding source for maintenance, which there's probably a dozen to 15 different categories that fall in this, from health and safety to site projects, which is roofs and parking lots, to some salaries for maintenance people. And it's been a very good thing. You should have about 6 pages in front of you. The first 3, there's kind of a couple components to this. The first 3 are obviously the revenue side, the funding that we get. Then pages 4 and 5 are kind of the expenditures, and then it puts the revenue on the bottom and kind of ties everything together. And then the last page is just a document that Superintendent Gronseth will have to sign attesting to the statement of assurances on this. The first 3 pages is the revenue, and that's fairly straightforward. It's just basically your number of students times $380 times your age of your buildings. If the age of the buildings are over 35 years, you get the $380. If it's less than 35 years, they prorate it to a certain amount. So basically, it's pretty much, the total revenue is tied to enrollment. The total revenue then is split out into levy and aid. When we come to September and we do our levy each year, you'll see a number on that. And that number is, it's a long calculation, how they get the levy portion and the aid portion, depending upon your number of students and the amount of the property wealth of the district. Typically, we've ran just around 50% of aid and levy, so it's been fairly good. We do drop down a little bit this year because of the drop in enrollment, where we have a little more levy and a little less aid. You'll see that here. Last year, if you remember when the project started, we fixed a roof. The LTFM plan allows you to spend ahead, for lack of a better word, because if you have a big project, a roof would, I think that one cost $1 million, give or take a little bit. Not a lot of school districts have that money just sitting in the bank to fix it up. So basically, the first year or 2, we fixed a roof on it, and we went into a negative balance. And we've been kind of working our way back out of that over the last few years here, and we actually got ahead of projection where we were 5 years ago during COVID, because some of the projects obviously got put off a little bit. The difference, in front of you, what changed a lot from last year is the revenue side of the calculation. With the enrollment being down, 100 students, give or take a little bit, that's $40,000 to $45,000 a year times 10 year, $400,000 to $450,000. So it's actually it's a large number. When we started out, went through this with Mark Bachman, pretty good, and we shifted some projects around, or he shifted some projects around, delayed some, put some off. So we're basically, if you look at the revenue side on the first page, line 10, our total revenue, is just short of $900,000. Before it would have been a little over 900, but we're running, that's based upon current enrollment projections, which we try to be pretty conservative on. So that's kind of, and then that's split out into aid and levy at roughly 55 to 45%. And we did go through this at length at the business committee meeting, so I'll try and just give you more of an overview here. But then if you want to skip to page 4, which is kind of the expense, and what we do is we send these forms into the state, and they kind of approve it. They give you, the funding is pretty much at the school district's or board's discretion how you want to spend it. I think if we'd end up $3 million in a hole, they would probably say, maybe you want to take another look at that, we're not going to approve it, or that type of thing. But otherwise, there's a wide discretion on what you can spend the money on, if you want to fix your roof, or you want to do the parking lots, or those type of things. Kind of, if you look down, about 3/4 of the way down on page 4, that's our total estimated expenditures for the years, and you can see, like in 2023-24, they're 1.2 and 994,000, and then they kind of go down a little bit for a few years. And then the other key line is down there, the negative 312,000. That's what I call our LTFM fund balance currently, or projected at the end of 2022. And then basically, it's just, if you, thing to look at is that line, it's pretty much simple math going across there, for the year. And then it throws in, if you go away to the bottom line, it's 357,000 will be where we're kind of at. And then you can see what the fund balance is estimated to do with the expenditures. If you go out to line 2031, the second to last column, you can see we get it back to about even. Last year, that was probably a plus $300,000-400,000. And the big difference is, we picked up some expenses last year that were a little bit unforeseen, and probably in the plumbing area. Some of the middle school buildings needed some repairs. And then the drop in the revenue. And like I said, Mark did take out some of the things, we adjusted it to get down to that level. If you look at the 10th year, it jumps up again because there's a roof that's scheduled to be done. And that, you have some flexibility in that depending on how it is, but we wanted to put it on there. And kind of my goal is, or the goal is to kind of get her back to even or a little bit above so we don't go too far negative when we get to that point, and we kind of try and hold it there. We have been fortunate over the last few years in the fact that we've had a good fund balance, so we're basically, if you want to say, self-funding the LTFM deficit within the school district. But with the, where we've talked with the projections are going, we didn't want to get too far negative because possibly the fund balance is not going to be as strong as it is right now. So kind of, and Sharon had just started to work with this in the last, so I don't want to put her on the spot too much on some of the expenses, but this is where it's a living document. Like I said, it changed significantly from last year, and it's probably going to change significantly when you see this again next year, in the fact that we'll, if some of the enrollment comes back or those type of items, we may add some of them projects back, or, if something else happens, we may have to adjust and move them down. And that's where, we've got a couple projects that they're finishing up at the middle school and at North and whatever. And then I think we need to take a look at, before starting any of the major projects, again, how we're sitting before we go into anything else. Some of the repairs and health and safety, those are ongoing. There's really not a lot you can do with those. Some of the bigger projects like the parking lot that's going on, those you can maybe shift back and forth depending upon it. One of the things that we did shift back was some of the tuck pointing, the exterior surfaces. They were still good. It's nice to keep doing that and keep up on it. Otherwise, long term you have problems. But that's kind of what our plan was that we went over, to try and just shift, the funds around. In a nutshell, we get about just short of $900,000 a year in the program, and to try and allocate that through the four or five school sites that we have the most efficient that we can, knowing that there are some things that are done every year. So Sharon, I know you haven't really worked with it a lot, but that's kind of what we've been, and I don't know if you got any comments. I don't want to just totally take over, so or Bill, or I'll open it up now, but it's, like I said, it's kind of an annual thing here. It's a good program. It doesn't look as good as it did last year, but last year it looked a lot better than it did 3 years ago. So it shifts around as we go.
And we're hopeful that enrollment will come back up, and then we'll be able to add those projects back in.
Yeah.
And I've had the opportunity to meet with Sharon several times. She and Mark and I and Tim went over all of this. I know that she's been on the job for 2 weeks, but all reports say that you're doing a great job, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you both so much. Sharon, welcome to the district, and
Thank you.
thank you very much for joining us tonight and just in general. Any other questions? All right. Would anyone like to offer a motion to approve the 10-year long-term facilities maintenance revenue plan?
Also move.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any?
It's a resolution.
Oh, it's a resolution. Thank you very much. So both of you moved a resolution, is that true?
Correct.
Excellent.
Correct.
All right. Drew?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Ben? Aye. Tim?
Aye.
Charlie?
Aye.
It's unanimous. The resolution passes. Thank you. I did not read the resolution into the record, but it is in there.
Yes. I won't tell him.
Action item number 2. Consider approval of district strategic direction and action plan. This is something that we just spent the last probably hour and a half on. So I think we don't need to recreate that minute for minute. But if there are questions or discussion, happy to talk about those things.
Will we receive updates throughout the year on the progress of the action plan?
You will, the implementation teams that will be formed for each of these goal areas will be reporting to the admin team, but also at the education and business committees. And so through those committees, we'll be getting regular updates. Okay.
So just to add the strategic plan, the district should always have a strategic plan that looks out 5 years or so. There had been a bit of a gap because we had a pandemic. I don't know if that affected everyone, but it affected the district a lot. And so we were dealing with that. But it was it was a superintendent goal of the last year to create the strategic plan and that process, and we were very pleased with the level of engagement with staff, the admin team, the public, and this is kind of the culmination of that work. Charlie?
Yeah, comment and question. Comment, would like to express appreciation to Superintendent Grunsath and the admin leadership team for all the work that they did to sort of pull all this together and make it pretty and have an action plan that goes with it. If someone in the community were curious about what is in this thing or what it looks like or want to talk to someone about it, where would they direct questions?
Well, they're more than welcome to talk to any of the building principals or myself. Really, anyone on the admin team has been really involved with this whole process from the very beginning to the very end and continuing into the action plan. It'll also be posted on our website once it's official, and so people can find more information there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ion, I want to welcome you again to the district too, and thank you for all the work that you put into this as well. We're really grateful for your leadership, and I think your fingerprints are all over this, even though you've only worked with us a short time, so thank you.
As a team member.
Chairman Leonard, I'll move the approval, or I'll make a motion to approve the district strategic direction and action plan.
I'll second.
Thank you. With a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Number 3, consider membership in the Minnesota School Boards Association for the 2022-2023 school year. This is something we do every year. Superintendent Gronseth, I don't know if you want to introduce this, or Member Kaut, if you want to say anything in particular, but happy to chat about this great agenda item.
It is an annual thing that you do. They provide training, they provide learning opportunities, and they also provide legal advice and policy advice, as we well know at this point. And so it is a very strong recommendation. Almost every school board in the state is a member of the MSBA, and so we highly recommend following suit.
Yeah, it's a great organization. It's nice that it's in our backyard. Like you said, I think in a typical year when it's maybe quiet, still incredibly worthwhile with the help with policies and and the annual meeting and training. But then when a pandemic hits or you're hiring a superintendent, just super helpful to have their leadership and advice and guidance.
And as a new school board member, I have to say that it has been absolutely invaluable to just bring everything up to speed and make me aware of all of the various responsibilities. It's great.
And the legislative there is very active with the legislators and lobbying to support public education.
Excellent. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Excellent, thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next action item is to consider approval of a resolution calling for a general election. This seems like a rather important thing to do, so.
This is for the seat currently held by Mr. Kaut after he was appointed to the board by statute. The next general election, that's not within 90 days of all of that. When Dr. Sutherland had resigned from the board, it created an opening. It was within 90 days of the election, which meant that a member was appointed for the year until the next general election. We are approaching that general election this fall. There will be a one-year term available. And I was going to encourage people, but, encourage the person who's sitting there. I probably shouldn't do that here. Moving right along, you need a resolution to enter into the general election, and we're within the time frame of doing so.
I move the resolution calling for a general election. And just for note, this is an election to elect a single board member for a term of 1 year. This election is set for November 8th, 2022. The resolution is included in the packet. I will not read it into the record.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, oh, it's a resolution, never mind. Drew?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Kate?
Aye.
Ben? Aye. Tim?
Aye.
Charlie?
Aye.
Resolution carries, passes. Thank you. All right, item number 5, consider approval of the superintendent evaluation summary. So we met last Monday, I believe that was July 11th, and had a closed session to discuss the annual review of Superintendent Gronseth, and you'll see a letter included in your packet that summarizes that review. If there are questions, comments?
I just want to say that I appreciate the feedback, and I enjoy our conversations, especially when we're talking about how to improve our performance, my performance, the district's performance, and always open to conversations anytime.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your service. To summarize the summary, we found your work in the district to be professional and exemplary. We reviewed the annual goals for last year and the performance on those, and we discussed potential goals for the coming school year. I sent out a survey, a 2-question survey to rank some possibilities and also add some additional ones and to board members, and we can discuss that at the next board meeting hopefully, and come to some consensus around the goals for the coming year. And we all decided that we wanted to get back to the new normal. So since we wrote it down, it has to happen. So next year will be normal, everyone.
We should probably laminate it.
Absolutely, yes. Well, with that, I would take,
I move to approve the superintendent evaluation summary.
thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next action item is to consider entering into negotiations for a new superintendent contract. This is typically the time when districts do that. Superintendent Gronseth has served 2 years of a three-year contract, but typically this is, like I said, this is the time when districts negotiate that, and there does need to be a board motion to set that process in motion. And I would ask the board that Tim Lokensgaard join me in those negotiations as chair of the HR committee. If anyone makes a motion to.
I'll make a motion that we enter into negotiations for the subsequent superintendent's contract.
Thank you. Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Further discussion. Tim, I will set up a meeting and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
All right. Hearing no other further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Item 7, consider approval of an MOU between St. Peter Food Service Bargaining Unit and St. Peter Public Schools.
And we have ET ready to talk to us about this MOU.
So, as you may recall, 5 years ago, when St. Peter Schools opted to go with the food service company, we had an MOU ensuring that our current St. Peter employees would stay on that contract, and any new hires would therefore be hired through Aviance. Now we're going back to our self-operations model, so we have an MOU switching that back. It didn't quite feel right to have those folks who had been serving St. Peter under Aviance start at step 1 with no benefits, et cetera. So after discussion with the HR committee, we went into meeting with the representatives from that bargaining unit and have developed an MOU which will allow for folks who had been working in St. Peter under Aviance to maintain their step and lane, as well as any service time would go towards their retirement, and any personal leave or sick leave would be carried forward as well. So that MOU is available for you tonight to review, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
So,
Charlie?
Ateeb, this is not just employees who worked for the district, switched to Aviance, and now back. This is all employees who even may have started under Aviance?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So our folks who were employed for St. Peter Schools never went to the Aviance contract. They remained
stayed
under
on.
St.
Okay.
Peter. And then any employees who worked for St. Peter under Aviance who are now being hired through St. Peter, they need to apply and go through that whole process. But once they're hired, we will give them credit for that service.
Thank you.
It's a good clarifying question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it. I know we'll have a vote, but to me that makes perfect sense, and I'm glad that we approached them and we could come to this MOU, and
Yeah, yep.
that's a good thing.
It's nice to see that team grow again, and we already, we have a couple folks who are already back, and we'll see if any of those other people are interested in coming to work for St. Peter Public Schools.
I move that we accept the MOU.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, breakfast lunch prices for 22-23.
The dynamic duo, right?
Yeah.
Good service.
Yeah, usually this is always one of the funnest reports of the year, but this This year, actually, all kidding aside, probably takes on a little more importance because of the last couple of years. As most of we've talked about in the past, breakfast and lunch, the first meal has been free the last 2 years with the COVID. It will not be free for everybody starting this new school year. A couple things come into play there. And I'll let Steve get into the free and reduced applications in a little bit here. But in order for you not to pay for the meal, you have to be approved for the free and reduced. And there's a few ways you could get that. And kind of want to just kind of get the word out to everybody, because that's a major change from the last couple of years. You will be charged for the meals if you're not approved for the free and reduced program. And you're going to hear the free and reduced a lot in the next month or two, hopefully, because besides getting the free meal for the student, it gets a lot of extra funding for the school districts. I think back pre-pandemic, we were at probably 35 to 40% somewhere free and reduced, and we dropped down to under 30. That cost us $500,000 just in compensatory revenue over the last couple of years that we're down. Our food service fund did very well with free meals because everybody paid, but we did take a drop in the compensatory. So basically, I'll talk a little bit about the lunch prices because the program, it's a federal program, and because the government does subsidize or pays for some of the free and reduced prices, they require you to make sure that if you don't qualify for that, that you're not subsidizing the program, the people that pay with meals that are too cheap, or don't meet the criteria. So they give us what's called a PLE, paid lunch equity calculator or something, and Beyond from our office, she's really good at calculating the price out, and it tells you kind of what you have to average for all your students on a price. It actually came out a little bit, and then they tell you can round it down a nickel, and then you can only raise it a dime, so it's kind of hit and miss. But what it told us, according to last year's, we had to raise our prices a dime. We're actually a little bit behind because 2 years ago, we didn't have to raise our prices because of COVID. Last year we raised them, but they were all free, so it really kind of didn't matter as much. And this year, the calculator says that we came up with raising all the meals a dime on the lunch, and then we raised the nickel, or the breakfast up a nickel to kind of keep up pace with that. So basically, that's what's before you on the lunch prices, to raise them up a dime for each of the different, and they're a little bit different at North and South and at the high school just because of the different amount of foods. But that's kind of where the lunch price is at, and maybe I'll turn over to Steve, maybe a little bit of the other information.
And just to make note for families, because they were all free last year, it's going to look like that 20-cent increase. But the reason was last year we did need to identify a price in the event that someone purchased a meal. But it will be a 20-cent jump per meal for lunch, and 10 cents jump for breakfast. So with that, we are doing a mailing that will go out in the mail tomorrow to all school district families. That includes information on how to apply for free and reduced meals. We would like to encourage all families to complete that. As Mr. Regner said, it not only provides support to that family financially if they qualify, but it also affects compensatory revenue, Title I funding, the placement of our activities and athletics in the
Different sports
classifications. And so it does do more. It's a formula that's used in multiple ways. And so the higher that percentage is, the more funding we receive to provide support to our students. And that's what the program's there for. So we really want to encourage folks to take advantage of that. Once our website has the updated application, it's available there. As I said, the hard copy has been mailed out to all families, and we'll do another mailing in August. Families can drop off their application at the district office entrance. There's a drop box there. It's all confidential. And then at conferences, they'll be available there as well. And there's an app that folks can use to fill out that application. There are no real big changes to the application. Family size and income, verified income are the two main pieces of information that we'll need.
And we do have some assistance if people need help to complete it through some of the liaisons, if there's a language barriers or
Yep.
things like that, or.
So
just-
our
just
social
need-
workers, et cetera.
Yep, or just need help completing, because it's straightforward, but sometimes it can get a little complicated for
Yep.
people, so.
And it does need to be completed every year. Sometimes there's this misconception that, well, my children already qualified for that last year or prior to COVID. It does need to be filled out every year, and if it's not filled out prior to October 1st, they may not be eligible, or it needs to be filled out by October 1st in order to cover that. That's when their old approval expires.
Yeah. And if they were not approved, if, like last year, some people did not fill it out, you need to fill it out. If you don't get it in by the start of the school year, you will be charged for those meals. So I'm kind of saying there, the sooner the better
Yeah.
that you get it in, and also, there is a cutoff date of when it really helps us for the compensatory too, so, it's a lot better if we can get them in September than if we get them in December,
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Do we have a sense of, just like we're required to raise our prices, and with inflation too, that makes complete sense. How often are those income guidelines adjusted by the feds? Do you have any idea about that? Annually?
Yeah, and they're inflation, and they're not, they're on the poverty level, they're not, they are fairly high for people that don't think they might not qualify. They are not, there's a lot of people that will qualify.
Oh, absolutely. My kids were on them when they were younger, with 4 kids, and we had 1 income at the time, but even with 2 incomes, it's a large number for 4 kids, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Kindergarten will continue to receive free breakfast, so we're happy about that. That's been in place for the last several years.
Yeah.
But we do want to get those applications filled out, and again, it's confidential, and we would just encourage people, whether they think they'll qualify or not, to just fill that out.
Yep. And one thing they call it free and reduced program, and that's kind of the federal program in the fact that they have different categories where if you're free, they pay for the whole thing. Obviously, if it's reduced, they pay for so much. But in Minnesota, the state picks up the balance, so there's really nobody that's at a reduced rate. Everybody that qualifies is at a free rate. So as far as your payment on the lunch. So, and it's totally confidential, both your application and when the application of it at the food service. So we just encourage everybody to do it, because it really does help the school. It helps the students, and it helps the school district.
I've had a number of families say, after not having to pay for meals for 2 years, like, this is gonna be a hit on our budget. And so, we, again, encourage, give it a try. You may not, but if you do, that's what the program's there for. So.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
I was happy to see that in the letter, you included the part about classifications for activities, because that might be another reason some people will be willing to fill it out, is to help.
Well, I don't know the precise numbers, but, those if you remember, we moved up a classification 4 years ago, we were one of the bigger schools in class 2A, and part of that was because we had a higher free and reduced number, and then, so we were one of the bigger schools, and now we're actually one of the smaller schools in 3A.
If not the small.
Yeah, I mean, we're right on the borderline, so I totally agree with you, Bill, that it's a big, if that's a thing that concerns you, fill out the application. So.
Thank you.
And I do want to just make one more clarification, just for families, that we do feed kids. So if there's a negative balance, we do continue to provide that meal, breakfast and lunch for students. If the extra items, we may not allow that. If there's a la carte items that people want to purchase, we might ask families to send cash for that, but we do feed all students.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I move to accept the new breakfast and lunch prices for 22-23 school year.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Action item number 9, consider second/final reading of revisions to the policy manual.
First of all, my thanks and my congratulations to the policy committees of the past 2 years for really flying through all these policies. And this is the 600s, 700s, 800s, and 900s, what's left of them. And there are 15 policies that we read last month. And I have not received any further revisions.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. And so they are here for a second motion, and that would put them into implementation stage.
Anyone want to make that motion?
I move that we accept the second reading revisions to the policy manual.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And the last action item is also related to policies. This is consider policies for a single reading due to immaterial changes, so.
Yes, according to statute, we can change this policy if there's immaterial changes. Most of these are the exact same words with a different number, just following the MSBA numbering system. We have 12 policies that fit into that category this month. Also requires a motion.
I'll move that we accept these policies.
Second.
Great, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to say we just adopted 27 policies at the same time.
Excellent.
No problem.
Hearing no other discussion, I'll call the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Information item, again, policy related. First reading of revisions to the policy manual.
Well, because the principals and admin team, we'd finished up the strategic plan and the action plan, and we'd just gotten so used to taking these 2-day retreats and doing meaningful work that we took another 2 days and went through the 500s and 600s of policy. And before you tonight, you have 31 policies for a first reading. Many of these have been altered from the model policies to reflect our current practices and procedures, and that is why all of the principals were part of that. We're trying to align our practices and procedures to fit into policy language. And that's where we are. So please do look over these policies. They can always be found in our shared drive, the school board shared drive under policy committee, and you can see the minutes and the changes that we've made, the red line masters for all of those policies.
And as a member of the committee, I want to commend Superintendent Granza and the administrators, the administrative team. The amount of work, this went really fast. The amount of work that went into this is incredible. And the revisions, the changes in numbers, the eliminating of duplication, this is going to be a great policy manual. And it took a lot of work. And I just want to thank you all for all the work that you did.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to reports. Principal Engeldinger.
Good evening. I am going to kind of try to combine some of these because a lot of the buildings right now have the exact same information. Early childhood, North and South Elementary, the middle school and high school ESY all wraps up next week. So those kids who are getting some extra summer services can enjoy the rest of the summer off. I would like to add that for the district, Read and Feed at North will continue for kids 1 to 18 until August 12th. At the middle school, all teaching positions have been hired. Congratulations, Mr. Graff. They are still looking for a long-term Phi-Ed sub, so if anybody has a friend, John would like to talk to them. Our alternative programs, we had 101 students at the high school level complete summer school courses for a total of 160 half credits. That's an incredibly high number. Obviously, due to COVID, we really ramped up those efforts. So thanks to Principal Sikora for that. At the high school, I couldn't be at the last June meeting, but we have a state champion track team. So I don't know if that was mentioned at our last meeting, and they were congratulated for that. But congratulations to that's a really big deal, and that's a first, I believe. The Hall of Fame induction on July 2nd was great. Thanks to those of you who were able to make it. We had a big turnout, and that's just always a really great, positive thing for our district, and it's pretty amazing to see what some of those inductees have accomplished throughout their lives. And the best news, district-wide, I don't think I can give away the exact scores yet, but our ACT scores for the class of 2022 were up in all areas, and the highest in almost all areas in the last 5 years, which is really incredible considering what the class of 2022 went through in their 4 years. So good job to the teachers, too.
Can't fake that.
Any questions? Thank you.
It was a little discouraging that track accomplishment, had 3 sentences in the free press?
Yes, agreed.
Thank you.
It's my turn.
Yep.
I too wanted to talk a little bit about free and reduced price lunch, because I was having some conversation with some friends who, I don't know, I guess we're of a certain age now, and talking about what it used to mean if you received free and reduced price lunch. Some had a different line that they had to go into. Others had a different colored ticket that they had to hand in, and it was a very public thing. And we've grown a lot since then. And so that stigma of receiving free and reduced price lunch, no one knows. You know, it's kind of like one of those TikTok things. How do they know? No one's going to know. All students punch in a number on the keypad, and there's no tickets exchanging hands. There's no money exchanging hands. Everyone is doing exactly the same thing. Nobody knows who's has money put into their account and who's receiving free and reduced price lunch. So if that has been a barrier because of something that families are perceiving or something that they experience themselves, and having not felt good about doing that or felt embarrassed about doing that, your kids wouldn't have that experience, and no one will know. And actually, not even our teachers or staff members know who receives free or reduced price lunch and who does not. The only people that know is the food service manager, who manages who's getting that money and who's not. And some key administrators like our food service director, and perhaps the superintendent has access to that, but it's not something I go and look up. So it's really a private, confidential thing. So I just didn't want that to serve as a barrier for anybody. That will be included in kind of the information that we're putting out to change that perception of what it means to receive free and reduced price lunch services. With that, we are seeing school registrations coming up. We're having more families come back from JI and Spells and homeschool and the new country school. And I think as COVID subsides, I'm going to knock on wood right now, more families are coming back and they're feeling more comfortable. For whatever reasons, they made other choices to come back to our schools. And so I encourage everyone to let us know if you want to come back or if you want more information about anything about how to enroll. You can check out our website or contact any of our schools or the district office. We'd be more than happy to help you out. Speaking of stopping into the district office, you may have noticed that there's construction in front of the district office doors. And if you need to come to the district office, you can park in the lower parking lot and enter through the side door, which is locked. So if you need to come in, you can walk to the side entrance, which is the middle school doors, which have been open for summer school, and we'd be happy to direct you to the district office or the middle school office and help you out. Or you can call ahead and we'll come and meet you at the door. We've done that several times. I also wanted to mention, speaking of construction, you may have noticed right before this meeting, they were breaking ground on the fire hall on the corner. They had a little event there. We're going to be starting construction on that roundabout. And so traffic will be blocked on Broadway and Sunrise. Please do not use Lincoln Drive as a shortcut from one side to another. Our students and our staff are not accustomed to traffic going through there, and for the safety of everyone, please do not use Lincoln Drive as a way to get from Broadway to Grace. And that concludes my report for the evening.
Thank you. Board members around the table. Charlie?
Nothing.
Tim?
I'm good.
I have nothing. Kate?
Nothing.
Bill?
Well, I would like to echo Annette's, the Hall of Fame brunch was a great event. Really enjoyed the bio sketches and so forth.
Excellent. Thank you.
And the food from food service was amazing.
It was almost as good as that food at that Tea and Talk at the Islamic. That was a great event also. I was able to get to that. If you went away hungry from that, you didn't try too hard.
Excellent. Drew?
Nothing.
All right. Thank you. With that, motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.